This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you, and we're coming to you from Super Bowl Radio Row in the lead up to Super Bowl 59 from New Orleans. Coming up here on today's show, the Niners being mentioned as potential trade destinations for star pass rusher Myles Garrett and wide receiver Cooper Kupp. We're going to have conversations about both of those players, but first, you know what I need you to do? Go on down. Hit that subscribe button. You see it. If you want daily shows on the Niners, I have you covered. This is your offseason home for the best Niners coverage. And join the 156,000 plus people who are already subscribed to this show by locking us in and hitting that sub button. So one of the big storylines across the league this week, Myles Garrett requesting a trade from the Cleveland Browns. We talked about that earlier this week. And Cooper Kupp taking to X to say that the Los Angeles Rams are trying to trade him. Here's his statement. I was informed that the team will be seeking a trade immediately and will be working with me and my family to find the right place to continue competing for championships. I don't agree with the decision and always believed it was going to begin and end in Los Angeles. Still, if there's one thing that I have learned over the years, there are so many things that are out of your control, but it is how you respond to these things that you will look back on and remember. I've taken so much pride in playing alongside my teammates for the LA community, so thank you for embracing my family and making this such a special place for us. 2024 began with one of the best training camps of my career. I thought it was pretty notable that he ended his Twitter statement by saying that, because the conversation around Cooper Kupp is this: is he washed? Are his best days behind him? Can he still play at an elite level? Well, Dan Orlovsky, former NFL quarterback, now an ESPN NFL analyst, thinks that Cooper Kupp has plenty left in the tank, and he listed these four teams as the best fits for Kupp: the Cincinnati Bengals, the San Francisco 49ers for the purpose of this show, the Denver Broncos, and the Houston Texans. Here's what Orlovsky had to say, and I think he's one of the top NFL minds on the ESPN network. San Francisco, what's Brandon Aiyuk's health coming off of his injury? They only really have Ricky Pearsall and Jauan Jennings, two good players, but Cooper's immediately an upgrade. If I'm one of those four teams, I call. You know which player he didn't mention there? Deebo Samuel. But he did bring up Brandon Aiyuk. When will Brandon Aiyuk be available? He suffered a gruesome, awful injury against the Kansas City Chiefs, multiple tears to key ligaments in his knee. He might not be able to play until the middle to latter portion of the 2025 season, and obviously that sucks for San Francisco because they gave him a bag, but also it hurts and diminishes what they have at that wide receiver position. So if you were looking at this core four as the Niners wide receiver group in 2025, what would you think of it? Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Jauan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. You can throw in Jacob Cowing. There is a legitimate question, though, and a conversation that I think does need to be had. Cooper Kupp has been injured a lot throughout his entire career. He is not the player who had that Triple Crown season back in 2021. From the midway point of the season to the latter portion, his numbers did go down. Wasn't getting some of that separation, but does have reliable hands, does have good footwork, does have good route running ability still. And when you look at his numbers, he did miss some time once again in 2024, but he was targeted a lot, hovering over 100 targets, and he still did have, in a down year, 67 catches, 710 yards, 10.6 yards per catch, and 6 touchdowns. The year before that, solid numbers, but he missed some time, and in 2022, missed some time as well. You think back to that Triple Crown season that he had in 2021, one of the best wide receiver seasons that we've seen in NFL history. Led the league in receiving touchdowns, in yards, and catches. 145 grabs, nearly 2,000 receiving yards, 13.4 yards per catch, and 16 touchdowns. But here's the deal. He's not that player. And, of course, the question also is, how much would the Niners have to pay to trade for him, and what would the contract look like? I don't think this move makes a lot of sense for San Francisco. So I disagree with Dan Orlovsky with his evaluation there. I think what the Niners need to do, build up the offensive line, build up the defensive line, and I think they're talented enough as they get healthy, as they rebound from last year on offense without the services of Cooper Kupp. So with that, we naturally segue to today's poll question. This will be the pinned comment on today's video as well. Should the Niners make a trade for Cooper Kupp? Share your feelings and your thoughts with me down in the comment section. Type Y for yes, type N for no. We'll talk Myles Garrett coming up here on the other side. But first, today's sponsor, our friends at Prize Picks. There is one football game left during the season. Isn't that crazy? The big game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints going down here in New Orleans in a couple of days on Sunday at the Superdome. Don't miss out on the action with Prize Picks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on the projected stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money. And here's the deal. If you download the app, create an account, and you use the code CLNS at prizepicks.com/CLNS, and you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. What I love about Prize Picks as well, all of the specials that they have to offer. For instance, the big game free pick. Patrick Mahomes projection discount. All he has to do is throw for more than a half passing yard. I think he's going to be able to do that. The other portion of this square that we like and the lineup is Saquon Barkley. More than a half rushing and receiving touchdown. I think Philadelphia and Saquon, like they have all year, going to be able to have success on the ground. And for instance, we go more on Mahomes, more on Saquon, and you can win some big-time money. Pick more, pick less, pick Prize Picks. We'll put that link down below in the comment section, in the show notes, and attached to the pinned comment of today's San Francisco 49ers report. We move forward on today's show. Earlier this week, on Monday from New Orleans, the big storyline, Myles Garrett requesting a trade from the Cleveland Browns. And so I talked about the possibility of the Niners trading for him and why it makes sense. And the star pass rusher in 2023 Defensive Player of the Year is a trade target and should be a trade target for San Francisco. I think the general manager, John Lynch, and Kyle Shanahan should look into it. This is why I think he makes sense and why this move would make sense for the Niners. Niners have a need at defensive end. The organization has spent and invested on defensive linemen throughout this John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan era. I think building up the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, is a great way to build up your football team after you get your quarterback. The Niners had the draft capital to trade away for Myles Garrett to entice the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland under Jim Schwartz has run the wide 9. So do the Niners. Garrett won Defensive Player of the Year under Jim Schwartz running that wide 9, and he's had 14 sacks in back-to-back years. And when the Niners hired Robert Saleh as their defensive coordinator, they made him one of, if not the highest-paid defensive coordinators in the game. That signaled to me, Niners aren't playing around coming off the 6-11 season. They are going all in. And Matt Barrows of The Athletic proposed a pretty interesting trade idea in a story that he did. The Browns would receive from the Niners a 2025 first-round pick, 11th overall, and a 2026 first-round pick, in addition to kicker Jake Moody. And then the Niners would receive the reigning Defensive Player of the Year and one of the top defensive ends that we have ever seen in Garrett. And that's the reality of what you would have to give up, in my opinion, to bring a player like Garrett to the Niners. He wants to chase a Super Bowl. You bring him in. It greatly increases your chances of completing your quest for 6, which, by the way, the Super Bowl next year, Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara. And I think those 2 first-round picks might be the price tag. And I know a lot of people will say, whoa, you can't give up 2 first-rounders for Myles Garrett. Let me ask you this, though. With the 11th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, are the Niners getting a better player than the generational player that is Myles Garrett? No. Now, there is some risk here. He's going to turn 30 in November, getting a little bit older. He's played a lot, but he has no signs of slowing down because he's played at such an elite level ever since he was taken number 1 out of Mississippi State. And think about it in this way, right? In this manner. Is this a move that helps you win a Super Bowl? I think for the Niners, it is. And if you think as though making this move greatly increases your chances of bringing home a Lombardi trophy, you make a splash move like this, and frankly, I think it's a move that the Niners need to make. So I would trade for Myles Garrett. I wouldn't trade for Cooper Kupp. Garrett in 2024, he was second among all defensive ends with the overall Pro Football Focus grade at 92.3, second in pass rush grade at 92.8. He logged 56 hurries, that was second, 83 pressures, that was first, and he had 14 sacks. Second behind TJ Watt, who's probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year in 2024. And look at the track record here, man. 14 sacks in back-to-back years, and before that, 16 sacks in back-to-back seasons. Preeminent player, a dog, one of one, and you pair him up along the defensive line opposite of Nick Bosa, my goodness. So I leave you with this. Would you give up 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett? D for do the deal. E for that's too expensive. Let me know down in the comments. As you venture down there, don't forget to hit that sub button. I got you covered with great Niners coverage every single day.